Hey, hey. Welcome back to Adult Brain Audiobooks. Graham, one of the narrators. This is Zeus. I'm having cat problems today. So, Zeus, say hi to the camera. No, he doesn't want to say hi. He's sticking around. So, I thought I better just start anyways. So, anyways, we are doing an experimental live read. And the book is The MAGUS, or Celestial Intelligencer from 1801, being a complete system of occult philosophy by Francis Barrett. It's quite the tome. We are in the middle of part two, book one, part two. We're at chapter 7, which is called the spirit of the world, and then we're going to get into probably chapter 8, 9. These are really small chapters, like a page or two of each. Probably end at some point here in chapter 12 or 13 or something like that. So anyways, this is just like raw. I'm editing it as I go. I'm going to share my screen and show you how it's done. I mean, it's a little different when I'm not live, obviously, because I can use 2 full screens. But this is just split up between my software here for recording, and this time I'm not using the PDF that I started this book with. If you want to see the beginning of this book, you can go back to the other live tabs there. But this is from sacredtext.com. It's a great website with a whole bunch of books, but I'm going to read it from this because it's just easier to read than the way the PDF was formatted. I couldn't really get it except for like a massive paragraph of small font. So I'm just going to try this instead this time, and we will jump into it here. 1801. This was written. See if what the cat's doing there. Just check, testing that. Okay, it seems to be working. Chapter 7 of the spirit of the world. Now, seeing that the soul is the essential form, intelligible and incorruptible, and is the first mover of the body and is moved of itself, but that the body or matter is of itself unable and unfit for motion, and does very much degenerate from the soul, it appears that there's just going to redo that quickly. I'm going to pull this down, make it a little bigger, and I can redo this from a spot. It does very much degenerate from the soul. It appears. Let's see here. Go back. Not a good start. Not a good start. But that the. And here comes the other cat. But that the body or matter is of itself unable and unfit for motion, and does very much degenerate from the soul, it appears that there is need of a more excellent medium. Now, such a medium is conceived to be the spirit of the world, or that which some call a quintessence, because it is not from the 4 elements, but a certain first thing, having its being above and beside them. There is therefore such a kind of medium required to be, by which celestial souls may be joined to gross bodies, and bestow upon them wonderful gifts. This spirit is, in the same manner, in the body of the world, as our spirit is in our bodies. For as the powers of our soul, just going to redo that part quickly, make sure this record level is up high enough. It just keeps slipping down to mid 40s. Let me just confirm where I am here. Lost my spot there. For as the powers of our soul are communicated to the members of the body by the medium of the spirit, so also the virtue of the soul of the world is diffused throughout all things by the medium of the universal spirit. For there is nothing to be found in the whole world that hath not a spark of the virtue thereof. Now this spirit is received into things more or less by the rays of the stars, so far as things are disposed or made fit recipients of it. By this spirit, therefore, every occult property is conveyed into herbs, stones, metals, and animals, through the sun, moon, planets, and through the stars higher than the planets. Now this spirit may be more advantageous to us if we knew how to separate it from the elements, or at least how to use these things chiefly which are most abounding with this spirit. For those things in which the spirit is less drowned in a body and less checked by matter, do much more powerfully and perfectly act, and also more readily generate their like. For in it are all generative and seminal virtues, for which cause the alchemist endeavors to separate the spirit from gold and silver, which being rightly separated and extracted, if it shall be afterwards projected upon any metal, turns it into gold or silver, which is no way impossible or improbable when we consider that by art that may be done in a short time. What nature in the bowels of the earth, as in a matrix, perfects in a very long space of time. Chapter 8 of the seals and characters impressed by celestial upon natural things. It's going to be a little challenging clicking because when I click to switch the chapters, it's going to remove my cursor from the recording software. So hopefully that's not too much of a problem. I'm going to have gaps between these chapters so I can easily see them later when I go to extract them. Chapter 8 of the seals and characters impressed by celestials upon natural things. All stars have their peculiar natures, properties, and conditions, the seals and characters whereof they produce through their rays, even in these inferior things, viz., in elements, in stones, in plants, in animals, and their members, whence everything receives from an harmonious disposition, and from its star shining upon it, some particular seal or character stamped upon it, which is the significator. Oh, look at that. It fell down. Significator. Whence, I'm going to just do that again. Significator. Some particular seal. I better go back a bit here to whence. Significator. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try it like that. Whence everything receives from an inharmonious disposition, and from its star shining upon it, some particular seal or character stamped upon it, which is the significanter of that star or harmony, containing in it a peculiar virtue, different from other virtues of the same matter, both generically, specifically, and numerically. Everything, therefore, hath its character impressed upon it by its star for some peculiar effect, especially by that star which doth principally govern it. And these characters contain in them the particular natures, virtues, and roots of their stars, and produce the like operations upon other things on which they are reflected, and stir up and help the influences of their stars, whether they be planets or fixed stars and figures, or celestial constellations, viz., as often as they shall be made in a fit matter, and in their due and accustomed times, which the ancient wise men, considering such as labored much in finding out occult properties of things, did set down in writing the images of the stars, their figures, seals, marks, characters, such as nature herself did describe by the rays of the stars in these inferior bodies, some in stones, some in plants, some in joints and knots of trees and their boughs, and some in various members of animals. For the bay tree, lote tree, and marigold are solary herbs, and their roots and knots being cut, they show the characters of the sun. And in stones, the characters and images of celestial things are often found. But there being so great a diversity of things, there is only a traditional knowledge of a few things which human understanding is able to reach. Therefore, very few of those things are known to us, which the ancient philosophers and chiromancers attained to, partly by reason and partly by experience. And there yet lie hid many things in the treasury of nature, which the diligent student and wise searcher shall contemplate and discover. Chapter 9 treating of the virtue and efficacy of perfumes or suffumigations and vapors, and to what planets they are properly and rightly attributed. It is necessary, before we come to the operative or practical part of talismanic magic, to show the compositions of fumes and vapors that are proper to the stars and are of great force for the. I got to redo that. Let's see, I'm going to go all the way back here. It is necessary. It is necessary, before we come to the operative or practical part of talismanic magic, to show the compositions of fumes or vapors that are proper to the stars and are of great force for the opportunely receiving of celestial gifts under the rays of the stars, inasmuch as they strongly work upon the air and breath. For our breath is very much changed by such kind of vapors, if both vapors be of the other like, the air being also through the said vapors easily moved or infected with the qualities of inferiors, or celestial, daily quickly penetrating our breast and vitals, does wonderfully reduce us to the like qualities. Let no man wonder how great things suffumigations can do in the air, especially when they shall, with porphyry, consider that by certain vapors exhaled from proper suffumigations, aerial spirits are raised, also thunder and lightnings and the like, as the liver of a chameleon being burnt on the housetop will raise showers and lightnings. The same effect has the head and throat if they are burnt with oaken wood. There are some suffumigations under the influences of the stars that cause images of spirits to appear in the air or elsewhere. For if coriander, smallage, henbane, and hemlock be made to fume, by invocation spirits will soon come together, being attracted by the vapors which are most congruous to their own natures. Hence they are called the herbs of the spirits. Also it is said that if a fume be made of the root of the reedy herb sagapin. Let's see, redo that one here quickly. Also it is said that Also, it is said that if a fume be made of the root of the reedy herb sagapin, with the juice of hemlock and henbane, and the herb tapsus barbatus, red sanders, and black poppy, it will likewise make strange shapes appear. But if a fume be made of smallage, it chases them away and destroys their visions. Again, if a perfume is made of calamint, peony, mint, and palma Christi, it drives away all evil spirits and vain imaginations. Likewise, by certain fumes, animals are gathered together and put to flight. Pliny mentions concerning the stone liparis. Pliny better redo that quickly. Just check where the record levels are at. I'm trying not to pop my peas, but there's a lot of peas in here, it seems. Pliny mentions concerning the stone liparis. Pliny mentions concerning the stone liparis that with the fume thereof all beasts are attracted together. The bones in the upper part of the throat of a hart being burnt bring serpents together, but the horn, but the horn, but the horn, but the horn of a hart. But the horn of a hart being burnt chases away the same. Likewise, a fume of peacock's feathers does the same. Also, the lungs of an ass being burnt puts all poisonous things to flight. And the fume of the burnt hoof of a horse drives away mice. The same does the hoof of a mule. And with the hoof of the left foot, flies are driven away. And if a house or ally place be smoked with the gall of a cuttlefish, made into a confection with red storax, roses, and lignum aloes, and then there be some seawater or blood cast into that place, the whole house will seem to be full of water or blood. Now, such kind of vapors as these, we must conceive, do infect the body and infuse a virtue into it which continues long, even as the poisonous vapor of the pestilence being kept for 2 years in the walls of a house infects the inhabitants. And as the contagion of pest or leprosy lying hid in a garment will long after infect him that wears it. Now, there are certain suffumigations used to almost all of our instruments of magic, of which hereafter, such as images, rings, etc. For some of the magicians say that if any one shall hide gold or silver or any other such like precious thing, the moon being in conjunction with the sun, and shall perfume the place with coriander, saffron, henbane, smallage, and black poppy, of each the same quantity and bruised together, and tempered with the juice of hemlock, that thing which is so hid shall never be taken away therefrom, but that spirit shall continually keep it. And if anyone shall endeavor to take it away by force, they shall be hurt, or struck with a frenzy. And Hermes says, there is nothing like the fume of spermaceti for the raising up of spirits. Therefore, if a fume be made of that, lignum aloes, pepperwort, musk, saffron, and red storax, tempered together with the blood of a lapwing or bat, it will quickly gather airy spirits to the place where it is used. And if it be used above the graves of the dead, it will attract spirits and ghosts thither. Now use... Just gotta take a quick drink here. Check. Now, the use of suffumigations is this: that whenever we set about making any talisman, image, or the like, under the rule or dominion of any star or planet, we should by no means omit the making of a suffumigation appropriate to that planet or constellation under which we desire to work any effect or wonderful operation. As, for instance, when we direct any work to the sun, we must suffume with solary things, if to the moon, with lunary things, and so the rest. And we must be careful to observe that, as there is a contrariety or antipathy in the natures of the stars and planets and their spirits, so there is also in suffumigations. For there is an antipathy between lignum aloes and sulfur, frankincense, and quicksilver, and spirits that are raised by the fume of lignum aloes are laid by the burning of sulfur. For the learned Proclus gives an example of a spirit that appeared in the form of a lion, furious and raging. By setting a white cock before the apparition, it soon vanished away, because there is so great a contrariety between a cock and a lion. And let this suffice for a general observation in these kinds of things. We shall proceed with showing distinctly the composition of the several fumes appropriated to the 7 planets. Chapter 10. Of the composition of some perfumes appropriated to the 7 planets. The sun. We make a suffumigation for the sun in this manner. Take a saffron, ambergris, musk, lignum aloes, lignum balsam, the fruit of the laurel, cloves, myrrh, and frankincense, of each a like quality, all of which being bruised and mixed together, so as to make a sweet odor, must be incorporated with the brain of an eagle, or the blood of a white cock, after the manner of pills or troches. The moon. For the moon we make a suffume of the head of a frog dried and the eyes of a bull, the seed of white poppies, frankincense, and camphor, which must be incorporated with menstruous blood or the blood of a goose. Saturn. For Saturn take the seed of black poppies, henbane, mandrake root, lodestone, and myrrh, and mix them up with the brain of a cat and the blood of a bat. Jupiter. Take the seed of ash, lignum aloes, storax, the gum benjamin, the lapis lazuli, the tops of peacock's feathers, and incorporate with the blood of a stork or swallow, or the brain of a hart. Mars. Take aporbium, bdellium, gum ammoniac, the roots of both hellebores, the lodestone, and a little sulfur, and incorporate them together with the brain of a hart, the blood of a man, and the blood of a black cat. Venus. Take musk, ambergris, lignum aloes, red roses, and red coral, and make them up with sparrow's brains and pigeon's blood. Mercury. Take mastich, frankincense, cloves, and the herb cinquefoil, and the agate stone, and incorporate them all with the brain of a fox or weasel and the blood of a magpie. General fumes of the planets. To Saturn are appropriated for fumes odoriferous roots as pepperwort root, etc., and the frankincense tree. To Jupiter, all odoriferous fruits as nutmegs, cloves, etc. To Mars, all odoriferous woods as sanders, cypress, lignum balsam, and lignum aloes. To the Sun, all gums as frankincense, mastich, benjamin, storax, laudanum, ambergris, and musk. To Venus, flowers as roses, violets, saffron, and the like. To Mercury, all the pairings of wood or fruit as cinnamon, lignum cassia, mace, citron peel, and bayberries, and whatever seeds are odoriferous. To the Moon, the leaves of all vegetables, as the leaf idnum, the leaf of the myrtle, and the bay tree. Know also that according to the opinion of all magicians, in every good matter, as love, goodwill, etc. Excuse me, I'm just slightly burping a bit there. There must be good perfume, odoriferous and precious, and in evil matters, as hatred, anger, misery, and the like, there must be a stinking fume that is of no worth. The 12 signs of the zodiac also have their proper suffumigations, viz., Aries, myrrh, Taurus, pepperwort, Gemini, mastich, Cancer, camphor, Leo, frankincense, Virgo, sanders, Libra, galbanum, Scorpio, Apoponyx, Sagittarius, lignum aloes, Capricorn, Benjamin, Aquarius, Ephorbium, Pisces, red storax. But Hermes describes the most powerful fume to be that which is compounded of the 7 aromatics, according to the powers of the 7 planets. For it receives from Saturn pepperwort, from Jupiter nutmeg, from Mars lignum aloes, from the Sun mastich, from Venus saffron, from Mercury cinnamon, and from the Moon myrtle. By a close observation of the above order of suffumigations, conjoined with other things of which we shall speak hereafter, necessary to the full accomplishment of talismanic magic, many wonderful effects may be caused, especially if we keep in eye what was delivered in the first part of our magic, viz., that the soul of the operator must go along with this. Otherwise, in vain is suffumigation, seal, ring, image, picture, glass, or any other instrument of magic, seeing that it is not merely the disposition, but the act of the disposition and firm and powerful intent or imagination that gives the effect. We shall now hasten to speak generally of the construction of rings magical and their wonderful and potent virtues and operations. Chapter 11 of the composition and magic virtue of rings. Rings, when they are opportunely made, impress their virtues upon us insomuch that they affect the spirit of him that carries them with gladness or sadness, and render him bold or fearful, courteous or terrible, amiable or hateful, inasmuch also as they fortify us against sickness, poisons, enemies, evil spirits, and all manner of hurtful things. And often, where the law has no effect, these little trifles greatly assist and corroborate the troubled spirit of the wearer, and help him in a wonderful manner to overcome his adversaries, while they do wonder how it is that they cannot effect any hurtful undertaking against him. These things, I say, are great helps against wrathful, vicious, worldly minded men, inasmuch as they do terrify, hurt, and render invalid the machinations of those who would otherwise work our misery or destruction. All which we are neither afraid nor ashamed to declare, well knowing that these things will be hid from the wicked and profane, so as that they cannot draw the same into any abuse or privy mischief toward their neighbor. We having reserved some few things in this art to ourselves, not willing to throw pearls before swine, and however simple and plain we may describe some certain instruments. Hey, Benjamin. Nice to see you. Instruments and not experiments. How did I get instruments from experience? Let me redo this from not willing. Not willing to throw pearls before swine, and however simple and plain we may describe some certain experiments and operations, so as that the great-mouthed school philosophers may mutter or scoff thereat. Yet there is nothing delivered in this book but what may be, by an understanding thereof, brought into effect, and likewise out of which some good may be derived. But to proceed. The manner of making these rings is thus. When any star ascends in the horoscope, fortunately, with a fortunate aspect or conjunction of the moon, we proceed to take a stone and herb that is under that star, and likewise make a ring of the metal that is corresponding to the star. And in the ring under the stone put the herb or root, not forgetting to inscribe the effect, image, name, and character, as also the proper perfume. But I shall speak more of these in another place, where I speak of images and characters. Therefore, in making of rings magical, these things are unerringly to be observed as we have ordered. If anyone is willing to work any effect or experiment in magic, he must by no means neglect the necessary circumstances which we have so uniformly delivered. I have read in Philostratus Yarchus that a prince of the Indians bestowed 7 rings marked with the virtues and names of the 7 planets to Apollonius, of which he were. It's funny, I was wondering if there's gonna be some references to like the Lord of the Rings or stuff that maybe Tolkien got from. And here we have 7 rings given to a certain um, culture or race of peoples, which is kind of interesting. That a prince of the Indians bestowed 7 rings. Where did I miss that up? 7 rings marked with the virtues and names of the 7 planets. I have read in. I somewhat remember reading in one of these books on magic that there was the ring of invisibility was a thing. It wasn't just like, or who knows if it was real or not, but they thought it was real. It was a thing written about in the old esoteric textbooks from hundreds or thousands of years ago. So interesting to see where Tolkien got some of his stuff from, or maybe got some, or maybe it's just all out there in the ether in our collective unconscious. Okay, here we go. Excuse me, I have to burp and snort and cough. I have read in Philostratus Yarchus that a prince of the Indians bestowed 7 rings marked with the virtues and names of the 7 planets to Apollonius, of which he wore. I'm going to cheat that sentence and just break it in half. I usually don't do that, but I'm doing this. I don't want to keep redoing these things. Of which he wore one every day, distinguishing according to the names of the days, by the benefit of which he lived above 130 years, as also always retained the beauty of his youth. In like manner, Moses, the lawgiver and ruler of the Hebrews, being skilled in Egyptian magic, is said by Josephus to have made rings of love and oblivion. There was also, as saith Aristotle, among the Cyrenians, a ring of Batas, which could procure love and honor. We read also that Eudamus, a certain philosopher, made rings against the bites of serpents, bewitching and evil spirits. The same doth I'm going to use the word Josephus, not Josephus. The same doth Josephus relate of Solomon. Also we read in Plato that Gyges, king of Lydia, had a ring of wonderful and strange virtues, the seal of which, when he turned it toward the palm of his hand, nobody could see him. but he could see all things. There's the ring I was talking about. That's the old invisibility ring. He turns it inside his palm and he disappears. Interesting. No wonder why we resonate so much with Tolkien and the fantasy. This is like, coming back to real stuff. And again, not necessarily real, but real. They thought it was real, or real myths, anyways. But I believe. By the opportunity of which ring he ravished the queen, and slew the king his master, and killed whomsoever he thought stood in his way. And in these villainies nobody could see him. And at length, by the benefit of this ring, he became king of Lydia. Footnotes. The author will engage to teach that there are curious. the author. Excuse me. The author will engage to teach any that are curious in those studies the particular composition of talismanic rings, whereby they may be enabled to judge themselves of the effects that are to be produced by them. We have shown the power and virtue of magical rings, but the particular characters, inscriptions, and images to be made in or upon them, we refer to the student to that chapter treating of the composition of various talismans. Excuse me, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Whoops. The composition of various talismans, in which we have described exactly the express methods of perfecting them. Chapter 12. That the passions of the mind are assisted by celestials, and that constancy of mind is in every work necessary. The passions of the mind are much helped and are helpful and become most powerful by virtue of the heaven, as they agree with the heaven, either by any natural agreement or voluntary election. For as Ptolemy says, he who chooseth that which is the better seems to differ nothing from him who hath this of nature. It conduceth, therefore, very much for the receiving the benefit of the heavens in any work, if we shall, by the heaven, make ourselves suitable to it in our thoughts, affections, imaginations, elections, deliberations, contemplations, and the like. For such like passions vehemently stir up our spirit to their likeness, and suddenly expose us and ours to the superior significators of such like passions, and also by reason of their dignity and nearness to the superiors, do partake more of the celestials than any material things. For our mind can, through imaginations or reason by a kind of imitation, be so conformed to any star as suddenly to be filled with the virtues of that star, as if we were a proper receptacle of the influences thereof. Now, the contemplating mind, as it withdraws itself from all sense, imagination, nature, and deliberation, and calls itself back to things separated, affects diverse things by faith, which is a firm adhesion, a fixed intention, and vehement application of the worker or receiver to him that cooperates in anything, and gives power to the work which we intend to do, so that there is made, as it were, in us the image of the virtue to be received, and the thing to be done in us or by us. We must, therefore, in every work and application of things, affect vehemently, imagine, hope, and believe strongly, for that will be a great help. And it is verified amongst physicians that a strong belief and an undoubted hope and love towards the physician conduce much to health, more sometimes than the medicine itself. For the same that the efficacy and virtue of the medicine works, the same doth the strong imagination of the physician work, being able to change the qualities of the body of the sick, especially when the patient places much confidence in the physician, by that means disposing himself for the receiving the virtue of the physician and physic. Therefore, he that works in magic must be of a constant belief, be credulous, and not at all doubt of the obtaining of the effect. For as a firm and strong belief doth work wonderful things, also it be in false works. So distrust and doubting doth dissipate and break the virtue of the mind of the worker, which is the medium betwixt both extremes. Whence it happens that he is frustrated of the desired influence of the superiors, which could not be enjoined and united to our labors without a firm and solid virtue of our mind. Having a challenge with my throat today. So let's do a couple more here and see if Chapter 13. How man's mind may be joined with the mind of intelligences and celestials, and together with them impress certain wonderful virtues upon inferior things. The philosophers, especially I was overthinking all that. The philosophers, especially the Arabians, say that man's mind, when it is most intent upon any work, through its passion and effects, is joined with the mind of the stars and intelligences. And being so joined is the cause that some wonderful virtue be infused into our works and things. And this is because there is in it an apprehension and power of all things, so because all things have a natural obedience to it, and of necessity an efficacy, and more to that which desired them with a strong desire. And according to this is verified the art of characters, images, enchantments, and some speeches, and many other wonderful experiments, to everything which the mind affects. By this means, whatsoever the mind of him that is vehement love affects, hath an efficacy to cause love, and whatsoever the mind of him that strongly hates dictates, hath an efficacy to hurt and destroy. The like is in the other things which the mind affects with a strong desire. For all those things which the mind acts and dictates by characters, figures, words, speeches, gestures, and the like, help the appetite of the soul, and acquire certain wonderful virtues from the soul of the operator in that hour when such a like appetite doth invade it. So, from the opportunity and celestial influence moving the mind in this or that manner, for our mind, when it is carried upon the great excess of any passion or virtue, oftentimes takes to itself a strong, better, and more convenient hour or opportunity, which Thomas Aquinas in his third book against the Gentiles allows. So many wonderful virtues both cause and follow certain admirable operations by great affections, and those things which the soul doth dictate in that hour to them. But know that such kind of things confer nothing or very little, but to the author of them and to him who is inclined to them, as if he were the author of them. And this is the manner by which their efficacy is found out. And it is a general rule in them that every mind that is more excellent in its desire and affection makes such like things more fit for itself, as also efficacious to that which it desires. Every one, therefore, that is willing to work in magic must know the virtue, measure, order, and degree of his own soul in the power of the universe. Thanks, John. John 13:7. Drop a like, sub, ring bell, and enjoy. Thank you. Longtime fan. Keep up the great work. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. We're going to chapter 14. I love that last chapter about the thoughts and how the Arabians all understood this, and probably the Persians, the old magi, that your thoughts, connecting with the universe, create all these things. I mean, it really is. There is a foundation to where this new thought stuff comes from. I mean, this is pretty fascinating. It's hard to believe you know, all the celestial suffogations and all that kind of stuff, but it's this the thought and our intention and all that, which is quite fascinating. What am I doing? Getting distracted here. Let's see. Chapter 14. shewing the necessity of mathematical knowledge and of the great power and efficacy of numbers in the construction of talismans, etc. The doctrines of mathematics are so necessary to and have such an affinity with magic that they who profess it without them are quite out of the way and labor in vain, and shall in no wise obtain their desired effect. For whatsoever things are and are done in these inferior natural virtues are all done and governed by number, weight, measure, harmony, motion, and light. And all things which we see in these inferiors have root and foundation in them. Yet, nevertheless, without natural virtues of mathematical doctrines, only works like to naturals can be produced. As Plato saith, a thing not partaking of truth or divinity, but certain images akin to them, as bodies going or speaking, which yet want the animal faculty, such as were those which among the ancients were called Daedalus, images. Ooh. Do I take a break here? Daedalus is Daedalus. I could come back and fix that one, I guess. But there's a Greek word in there. Let me see if I can get my assistant to help me with that. I usually have a Greek dictionary open so that I can plug all the letters in, but it's kind of a long process. But I'm gonna have to go back a ways here to a thing, probably. Okay, right there from a thing. So I'm gonna go back to that, but I'm also just gonna check with my assistant on this Greek word here. I do like to include the pronunciations in English of the Greek word. Let me see what he says, what it says. Oh, it worked. The paste worked. That's another good reason why to use this instead of some of the old PDFs. Automata. I love it. Automata. Okay. So I'm going to redo that. Good job. Assistant comes through. Okay. So check. A thing not partaking of truth or divinity, but certain images akin to them, as bodies going or speaking, which yet want the animal faculty, such as were those which amongst the ancients were called Daedaluses, images, and automata, of which Aristotle makes mention, viz., the 3-footed images of Vulcan and Daedalus, moving themselves, which Homer saith came out of their own accord to the exercise, and which we read move themselves at the feast of Hyarba. I missed that one. Damn it. But this is awesome chapter. I love the automata and the construct type philosophy that these are like ancient androids or robots, really. Which Homer saith, and which we read. Hyarba. And which we read move themselves at the feast of Hyarba, the philosophical exerciser. So there are made glasses, some concave, others of the form of a column, making the representation of things in the air seem like shadows at a distance, of which sort Apollonius and Vitellius, in their books De Prospectiva and Speculis, taught the making and the use. And we read that Magnus Pompeius brought a certain glass amongst the spoils from the east to Rome, in which were seen armies of armed men. And there are made certain transparent glasses, which, being dipped in some certain juices of herbs and irradiated. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, sometimes I can just redo the brackets because the brackets are kind of a change in inflection anyways. Being dipped in some certain juices of herbs and irradiated with an artificial light, fill the whole air round about with visions, And we know how to make reciprocal glasses in which the sun shining, all things which were illustrated by the rays thereof are apparently seen many miles off. Hence, a magician, expert in natural philosophy and mathematics, and knowing the middle sciences, consisting of both these, viz., arithmetic, music, geometry, optics, astronomy, and such sciences that are of weights, measures, proportions, articles, and joints, knowing also mechanical arts resulting from these, may, without any wonder, if he excel other men in the art and wit, do many wonderful things which men may much admire. There are some relics now extant of the ancients, viz., Hercules and Alexander's pillars, the gate of Caspia made of brass and shut with iron beams, that it could by no art be broken, and the pyramids of Julius Caesar erected at Rome near the hill Vaticanus, and mountains built by art in the middle of the sea, and towers and heaps of stone such as seen in England, put together by incredible art. But the vulgar, seeing any wonderful sight, impute it to the devil as his work, or think that a miracle, which indeed is a work of natural or mathematical philosophy. But here it is convenient that you know that as by natural virtues we collect natural virtues, so by abstracted, mathematical, and celestial I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. B right there probably, but here it's as by natural virtues we collect natural virtues. You got to go a little further back here. Check, check, check. But here it is convenient that you know that as by natural virtues we collect natural virtues, so by abstracted, mathematical, and celestial, we receive celestial virtues, as motion, sense, life, speech, soothsaying, and divination, even in matter less disposed, as that which is not made by nature, but only by art. And so images that speak and foretell things to come are said to be made, as William of Paris relates of a brazen head made under the rising of Saturn, which they say spake with a man's voice. But he that will choose a disposed matter and most fit to receive, and a most powerful agent, shall undoubtedly produce more powerful effects. For it is a general opinion of the Pythagoreans that as mathematical are more formal than natural, so also they are more efficacious. As they have less dependence in their being, so also in their operation. But amongst all mathematical things, numbers, as they have more of form in them, so also are more efficacious, as well to effect what is good as what is bad. All things which were first made by the nature of things in its first age seem to be formed by the proportion of numbers. For this was the principal pattern in the mind of the Creator. Hence is borrowed the number of the elements, hence the courses of times, hence the motion of the stars and the revolution of the heavens, and the state of all things subsist by the uniting together of numbers. Numbers, therefore, are endowed with great and sublime virtues. For it is no wonder, seeing there are so many occult virtues in natural things, although of manifest operations, that there should be in numbers much greater and more occult, and also more wonderful and efficacious. For as much as they are more formal, more perfect, and naturally in the celestials, not mixed with separated substances, and lastly, having the greatest and most simple commixtion with the ideas in the mind of God, from which they receive their proper and most efficacious virtues, wherefore they are also of most force and conduce most to the obtaining of spiritual and divine gifts. As in natural things, elementary qualities are powerful in the transmuting of any elementary thing. Again, all things that are and are made subsist by and receive their virtue from numbers. For time consists of numbers, and all motion and action, and all things which are subject to time and motion. Harmony also, and voices have their power by and consist of numbers, and their proportions. And the proportion arising from numbers do, by lines and points, make characters and figures. and these are proper to magical operations. The middle, which is betwixt both, being appropriated by declining to the extremes, as in the use of letters. And lastly, all species of natural things and of those which are above nature are joined together by certain numbers, which Pythagoras, seeing, says that number is that by which all things subsist, and distributes each virtue to each number. And Proclus says, number hath always a being, yet there is a one in voice, another in proportion of them, another in the soul and reason, and another in divine things. But Themistius, Boetius, and Averrois, but I'm losing my voice. I think this is going to be the last chapter. Themistius, Boetius, Averrois. Let me double check that. Let me get. I'm going to guess Averrois. Let me see what he says. Let me see what it says. Let me see what my Android says, or my automaton says about this. Joachim. You know, it's like, I don't want you to tell me what it's referring to. I just want you to pronounce. Averroes. 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 So it's funny. It's telling me it's supposed to be Averroes or Averrois, pronunciation of Averrois. It might, so in classical or Latinized context, it might be Averroes. For the Magus, the English audience would likely use Averroes. So I was wrong on that one. Averroes. Let's do that. Averroes. But Themistius, Boetius, and Averroes, the Babylonian, together with Plato, do so extol numbers that they think no man can be a true philosopher without them. By them there is a way made for the searching out and understanding of all things knowable. By them the next access to natural prophesying is had, and the abbot Joachim proceeded no other way in his prophecies but by formal numbers. All right, I'm going to stop there. So tomorrow will be like, I think, and of course I got more people watching than ever. That's weird, but I'm losing my voice here. So tomorrow will be like chapter 15, the great virtues of numbers. So we're getting into numbers, the scale of unity. There's some charts in here about Hebrew words and stuff too. I just got to make sure that this stuff, like there's some characters in there that I got Yaniel. Anyways, of the number 3. So then it goes through all this stuff, the number 4, the number 5, the number 6. It kind of goes through this whole thing. So that'll be fun to do. But I'll check whether the PDF is best again to read instead of this. I just want to make sure we're not missing stuff, because sometimes these things get redone and they get missed. So I'll check the PDF and make sure that I've got all the Hebrew stuff today. Hey, Sati, thanks for being here again. All right. So yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully get my voice back. Thanks for being here. Share the show, the channel, and all that kind of stuff. We got all our stuff on Spotify and Audible. Actually, I should probably, you know what I should do is just share the screen here. This is our book. Oh, there it is. It's on there. Yeah. These are some of the books we've done recently. They're on podcast form and, of course, on this YouTube channel. But so share the channel, like all this stuff, go back in the catalog and see it. I'm not the only one narrating. There's some other ones too. Um, Darren's on some and some other guys. So there's some good titles in here. Ragnarok was really one of my underrated favorites. This one is a book that is not popular enough for what it talks about. That's from Ignatius Donnelly. Yeah, there's some good titles in there. Anyways, yeah, thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 or 9. Probably I'll try to do 9, I guess. Thanks, Sati. Take care. We'll see you. Bye-bye.